understand them, but creating the ability through this work group to make recommendations for local government to help facilitate this process at a local level is huge. It's huge. Requirements for inspections, investigations, search and seizure, other activities may become necessary from time to time. Many of these things are already born in what's called the Administrative Procedures Act in Colorado. And the Administrative Procedures Act is a very general piece of law that gives guidance concerning hearings and the protocols associated with notice requirements. And sometimes there's time frames attached to it. There's a few lawyers on the panel that can probably give you a little more their 2 cents about really what that means more than the layman's version that I just gave you. But a lot of the things that I'm dealing with will actually be derived from the APA requirements themselves, but they will afford the industry some additional protections. And the most obvious one that I can give you is you're in a regulated occupation, you'll have a business license. And this industry is akin to the same thing if you've ever had the unfortunate opportunity to have been arrested for a DUI. There's a criminal sanction and there's oftentimes an administrative sanction to take your driver's license away. Those kinds of things will also be practiced. It's a routine practice in regulatory law enforcement all over the United States. But the Administrative Procedures Act says that if there's an emergency situation, if there's a true public safety need created out there, that if you can show there's a willful and deliberate violation of law, or that the violation imperatively requires emergency action on behalf of the licensing authority, the license can technically be suspended, period, .end, right now without any notice. And the APA doesn't give you a time frame for that suspension period. You could, in theory, be closed for 30, 60, 90 days before you have the opportunity to have a hearing. I personally think that's a little excessive and unreasonable. There should be some protections for the industry, and so my proposal will be that the suspension should not exceed 15 days, and it's something that we use. It's very prevalent in all the other lines of business that I'm involved with. It gives your counsel time to prepare for a case. Obviously, this side of the equation, if it comes to that level, our case should have been prepared, but just an additional protection afforded the industry. Creation of a range of penalties. I think it's critical that industry have a voice. The reality here is, again, that there are things that it's not worthy of losing your business over. Perhaps the law requires you to have a license posted. If you don't have it posted, you're going to build a relationship with our agents on a territorial basis. You'll get to know them very well. There will be no surprises in this arena. And as I told you before, there's 3 components: education, compliance, and enforcement. That will not change. We will ensure that the industry understands what the expectations are of them. We will come out, we will do routine compliance inspections. Perhaps your license isn't posted, we'll tell you, please, your law requires your license to be posted, please get it up in the next 30 days. We'll come back 30 days to make sure you've complied. If you didn't, we're going to have some issues. But is that specific issue worthy of revoking your license? Absolutely not. But industry needs to be at that table, and they need to understand really what the sanctions are. I get it. A lot of money invested in this business. You need to protect your investment. We'll do what we can to ensure that you're educated so that you can comply with the law. You're welcome. Requirements for inspections, investigations, searches, and seizures, additional activities that may become necessary from time to time. These are things that the General Assembly has levied upon us to give some guidance for. If you didn't know it when you're in a regulated occupation, you do give up a little bit of your Fourth Amendment protection. That's just a sad reality of regulatory law enforcement. As a condition of holding that license, you agree that you're in a regulated arena, that we're going to come and visit you, we're going to have expectations, but it's again critical that you understand what those expectations are before we move forward. And this forum will be the ability to bring local law enforcement, state law enforcement, local state health officials, local state government, as well as all representation from the industry, be it patients, patient advocates, center owners, growers, infused product manufacturers, whatever the case may be, to the table to discuss these issues in a non-emotional way. The prohibition or misrepresentation of unfair trade practices. It's all about creating a level playing field. What one has the ability to do, everybody else should have the ability to do. control of informational product displays, identification that you're going to have to have on your person, security requirements, the video requirements we talked about. All these things are born in rules. Sanitary requirements, yes. The health department asked me to develop the sanitary requirements. Especially, but they're a stakeholder in this process, and they will be at the table. They have no choice in that matter. Specification for acceptable forms of ID, I talked about that. Labeling standards. What are the critical issues surrounding labeling of the medicine that you're going to be dispensing? I can tell you from my standpoint, I want to ensure that there's no herbicides, pesticides, or harmful contaminants that are going to further harm a patient who's going to ingest the medicine. I'm not necessarily concerned about the potency of it, I get it. Regardless of the amount of THC, you're not going to OD, okay? I understand. Record requirements, the things that we're going to ask of you to maintain to fully show all your business transactions. That's another issue with all the banking problems that we're having. I can tell you it's a huge issue for me. It's a huge issue for you. It's a huge issue for all of us. We're partners in this industry, and I intend to take this issue on a national basis next week to try and get some help. Media network out of New York coming in to do an interview segment about it, so I'm pretty excited about that. There's also going to be some communication with the federal government as to the need, truly what they're doing by allowing large sums of money to be sitting around. Reality, we're all honest people. I get it, but I got to tell you, in my career, I found $2.2 million in a broken barn, and I was the only one who found it. And I freely admit, there were a lot of things going through my mind at that time. The temptation was unreal. I could pass a polygraph today, but the temptation was there. You put your pants on the same way I do. If I'm going to get that temptation, so are you. It's a wide degree of corruption. Let's create a mechanism that protects all of us. A few other things, state licensing procedures. Reporting and transmittal of monthly sales tax payments, those kinds of things. It's already in law. I would tell you I've already drafted 91 pages of rules dealing with just the minimal subject topics that I've given you tonight. I have drafted 91 pages. I've taken them from existing laws already in the other lines of business that I have. There's no sense reinventing the wheel. These things have been through what's called a 106 action. They've been tested in court. They've worked. They've proven to me that they are reasonable, they're effective, and they protect your interest as well as mine. And that's a critical component here. I'm going to give those drafts to that work group on the 27th, and I'm going to ask for their input. They're not in stone. Not by any stretch of the imagination are they in stone. I still have 6, 8, or 10 very hefty rules that we need to get through. As I said, it's critical that we move that process forward so that the moratoriums can be lifted and the industry can move forward as a whole. Last thing I want to tell you about really is the regulatory scheme. We are truly in the national spotlight, as many people have said. I'll even go so far as to say we're in the international spotlight. I have had media interview me as far away as England. Most recently, I've been asked to help the state of South Dakota, who has this on their ballot issue. I've been asked for input into the District of Columbia. They have recently allowed the use of medicinal cannabis. And does anybody really know the significance of what happens in the District of Columbia? If you're not, their laws had to be ratified by the Congress of the United States, and they were passed. The state of Vermont has called and asked for assistance. Arizona, I've had media attention from the New York Times, Washington Post, BBC, NPR, Fox New York, CNBC, as many of you know, is doing a documentary on this, and a plethora of media sources from a local basis. And it truly is a privilege to grow with this industry as we move forward. It's really all I have. I thank you for your time and your interest in coming. I'm hopeful that we can keep the two-way communication moving forward, and I'm also thankful that I don't have 10 or 11 o'clock emails to respond to anymore. And in closing, I'm very thankful that I got to go last. Cheryl said the person who goes last doesn't have to answer any questions. So thank you.
We will start the question and answering. If you guys don't mind lining up, and we'll just identify the last person to ask questions. So just right behind JB. I do want to thank JB Wood with Great Point Insurance for taking this for us tonight. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Just if you could keep your questions to one question per person. Do we have any others that need to ask questions? We need for you to line up because we're going to stop the line at the last person here.